Hi, so I'm coming to come and tap in, see what flows through. I've been in my head a lot. So what I normally do is I sit down and I just allow, consciousness to flow through me. And I've been in my head a lot. I've been overthinking things. I've been questioning where I am on my journey. Could I grow weary and stagnate for too long? My journey's been a difficult one, a tough, tiring, exhausting really journey. I'm going through a divorce. And so for as much as I know I'm making the right decision, and if I seem happy, it's because I am happy that I'm making this decision. A lot has gone down over the last 1.5 years since I separated. It's been very difficult. And I keep coming back to this story. It's the story of my life at the moment. The big shift for me is witnessing myself going through my tough moments. What it felt like last year, April, when I initiated the separation. This is what it feels like now. And it feels considerably different how I'm handling myself in the most difficult moments. And the gift of this is legion, because just like I can't tell you just how much this move to do this very hard thing is shifting my life in the best possible ways. And not everybody's got the same tough decisions to make, but we are all going to face some really difficult decisions that we have to make, especially around our relationships over the next few months, maybe even years. I think the relationship as we know it is really being looked at from a much more open-minded place, from a much different perspective, from being in it and now stepping out of it with a little bit more detachment. And we are realizing a whole host of new things about relationship. And once this happens, and once this consciousness becomes like the norm, you will find yourself starting to question the nature of your relationships. You always have to. And this is not only romantic partnerships, this is every single relationship you have. It needs to come under the microscope, and you have to ask yourself whether or not you are satisfied with the status of your relationships. And you can't exclude any relationships from this. I see oftentimes, I think people want to exclude the sibling relationships, those familial relationships. And I think, if you wanted to go and do some serious ego work, I think if you went to your sibling relationships, you could shift a lot very quickly. But people don't want to do it. They don't want to humble themselves enough to do sibling work. I don't know what it is, but I know there's juice in it. And so if you've got siblings and you can go and have difficult conversations with your siblings and put your egos aside and humble yourselves, you want an opportunity to shift something big energetically for yourself in terms of how you see the world and how you see yourself. I believe that there's a lot to do around difficult sibling conflict. Based on my astrology right now, with Pluto moving out of Capricorn and into Aquarius, the 29th degree of Capricorn is in my third house, and the thing that stands out the most is my sibling relationships that sits in the third house. And it's definitely come online for me. It just so happens that I have got the astrology to back it up, and so every moment that I spend in this trying to kind of figure this thing out, I know that the astrology, and which means that the energies that currently the energies that we are currently in is kind of supporting this navigation of my sibling relationships, and it's about making peace. It's an inner peace that I'm having to make around the way things are, and the stories that I created in my mind about the way I wanted them to be, and to release any expectation, to release any attachment to a specific way in order for me to feel satisfied. Can I feel satisfied just with the way things are right now? Whatever that may mean, because if I wanted to be any other way, then I'm kind of being impatient with somebody else's journey, let's just say. And that doesn't serve anything. And so for me, that's one of the relationships that I think you can go and do a lot of ego work with. But it's all kinds of relationships, parents and children. I mean, think about the ego work that you can do in that relationship as a parent, to humble yourself with your child, because your child is also just a person. So oftentimes we want to command or demand and just tell, but actually your children are people, and they have their own experience in the world, and they have their own journey actually, and we are only there but as a guidance system, and to give yourself a lesser role in your child's life, it's kind of important. Give yourself a lesser role in your child's life. You want to control your child's entire existence. What kind of person do you want your child to be? And if you're only controlling of your child is going to be somebody who's controllable as an adult, what kind of child what kind of person do you want to put into the world? Do you want your child to kind of be at a disadvantage because they haven't been challenged sufficiently while in your care? And I don't mean challenged by you saying just keeping them like in such a chokehold that they can't actually experience life themselves. It is really about being challenged by life while they are still in your care. I believe this more and more. And it's like finding what that balance is. But you, as a parent, will have to most probably go and do some work to know what that is. Because if we are only copying and pasting how we were parented onto our children, then we're not doing ourselves or our children justice. The opportunity that you are given is really to, I think, to upgrade, to heal from what has hurt you in your childhood, and to reparent yourself through parenting your children, because it's almost like it will be necessary. You cannot assume that it won't be necessary, not for anybody. Nobody gets to be placed on a pedestal where they go, they just knew how to do it. Anybody who knows how to do it and is doing a good job most probably has gone and understood something about parenting and child rearing outside of just doing it instinctually. And so I'm all about trusting your intuition, right? But if you assume that you're just going to be able to parent instinctually you will parent the way you were parented. If you don't go and do any other work in terms of healing yourself, making the assumption that you came from a place that with limitations. We all came from homes where there were limitations, because we can only parent from the standard, from the base level that we were parented. And so our parents did the best they could. But if you think about how you feel in the world, and a lot of people are in pain, and they're kind of in recognition of that once you can recognize the fact that you are in pain, you can kind of almost look back at your childhood and look back compassionately, because you can't blame your parents. You can't blame your parents either, because the limitations that they parented from it was the cards that they were dealt. And so I do think that anybody who is kind of winning at the parenting game has gone to learn about parenting. I'm not taking away from anybody's capacity to parent, but the reality is a lot of us are in pain, and if we don't take care of the pain that sits within us, we are highly likely inflicting pain onto our children. Our children have been entrusted to us, but part of the gift of that cycle of being a parent and raising a child, and you get the opportunity to revisit your own childhood almost. That's what I'm experiencing in my life, that I'm getting to revisit my 11-year-old self and my 14-year-old self through my kids. And if I can, it's like, how would I have wanted to be treated when I was that age? And even though I don't necessarily have, and I'm not taking away from my parents, but we were 7 children. My parents were stressed out. Like, I didn't get certain stuff that I needed. It's just what it is. It's not about trying to badmouth my mother, my father, and yes, there were issues, but the reality of it was we were lots of children. I was not necessarily even an easy child, and I know that there was missing stuff, but I know it now, as opposed to thinking that there's something wrong with me. And as opposed to just blaming my mother, there's nothing she can do. She's gone. She's been gone for most of my life, She's passed away when I was 15 years old. And so if I'm wanting her to treat me differently before I can feel good or okay in my body because of what was missing, I'll never feel good. Right? And so I need to go inward and heal that inner child that maybe felt abandoned by the fact that she even died when I was 15 years old, not even realizing that I felt a little bit abandoned. Only kind of realizing later on in my life, it's like something about, and it's like to not give her enough thought, to kind of just like, I don't think too deeply about her through the years, but to kind of forgive her for leaving. She didn't have a say in it, kind of. It just is what it is, the way the thing played itself out, and I'm left with this abandonment wound that shows up in my relationships, and it makes me feel kind of unworthy. But logically, I know that is not what she did to me, but there's a young version of me that hasn't come to terms with the fact that she left. And then I think about my life, trying to navigate my life as a teenage girl and young adult and a new mother, a married woman and a new mother, and all of the stuff that I suppose your mother helps you with, right? That I just didn't have. And I didn't have a filler, right? So I didn't have somebody in my life that kind of took on that role for me. And I kind of just was figuring it out, and I still think I know about love because of the way I saw her love I didn't always feel so loved by her. I didn't. And I'm not trying to take away from my mother, but I didn't always feel so loved by her. I sometimes even questioned whether or not she liked me. And I'm able to feel those really uncomfortable feelings. And I did some hypnotherapy work around this, and it shifted. And I did an ayahuasca journey, and she also came up for me, and I knew that I know about love because of her love. But it's kind of this weird, I don't know, there's still a block between myself and her. Actually, yeah. And even as I'm saying it now, it's just like this realization that there's a weird little block between myself and her, and that I know I'm going to be shifting soon because I'm allowing myself to feel the energy. I can feel it. It's like sitting right here. And so we're going through times where we're feeling a lot, and I kind of just want to encourage you to feel your feelings. Find mechanisms to feel your feelings. Allow the pain to be there. It's so important that we allow our pain to be felt. Living in a time where we almost can't suppress it. And I believe so much that autoimmune disease, especially a lot of disease, what we see as disease is actually a manifestation of the pain that we are in emotionally, that there's nowhere else to go, and so it starts manifesting physically. And so for your own healing, I think it's so important that you start feeling your feelings. Feeling your feelings is extremely healing, but it has the capacity to heal, but it's not easy. If you get honest with yourself, oftentimes you'll see that you're not feeling your feelings deeply enough. And if you get close to feeling something too real, you oftentimes just like distract yourself and do something else about it. Feeling your feelings is a lot about acknowledging your life, because if you start feeling your feelings and you go, but why am I sad? You have to start exploring the things in your life that are potentially getting you there. But it is very rewarding, and it shifts everything. Because it shifts your energy body, and once your energy body starts clearing, you start healing on so many levels. So yeah, I'm hoping that this lands somewhere. I'm hoping that you manage to find something that you can latch onto here that kind of, gives you momentum, some validity. Maybe something just resonates with you and you go like, yeah, this sounds like information that I can contemplate and allow to shift me. And allow it. If it feels as if it wants to shift you, allow it to shift you. And I always want to encourage you to love wherever you go, but learn about boundaries and taking care of yourself and putting yourself first, because if you're not putting yourself first and you are self-sacrificing, you are harming yourself, and it will catch up with you. And we are in a time of our lives where we cannot be ignoring ourselves on behalf of somebody else. And make sure you know that you are enough, first and foremost. Because the more you give to yourself, the more you will actually have to give to those that you love. I promise you that. Sometimes we feel depleted and we're just like, where am I supposed to find more of myself to give to those that I'm supposed to love? And that lack of access to those deeper feelings really sits within your capacity to go and heal and feel your own pain. The gift of feeling your pain is like a deeper capacity to feel good feelings. You can't have the one without the other. It's challenging work. Start small, but allow yourself to come closer toward your hurt feelings. And it may feel petty. Sometimes your hurt feelings are the things that you don't know. You don't want to feel petty and acknowledge or admit that somebody familial has the capacity to hurt your feelings. But it's those familial relationships that really truly will break you open, because it's also where you love the deepest. But your pride keeps you from potentially acknowledging that. Your ego wants you there in your pride. Only you've got the capacity to shift that. Put your ego down. Why do you want your ego to win? Your ego doesn't want you to admit it. Your ego will be cross, but you will be free. I'm sending you a lot of love.